Hey, remember my last review and I said I didn't think I was ready to jump into the endless heap of terrible shark movies? Well, I lied. Welcome back to my continuing rummaging through trashy 90s nature horror movies. Now, this will be the last one for a while, I promise, but before I can get back to talking about other things, I gotta round out the trilogy, and whoo boy did I save the best/worst for last. Cruel Jaws is one cruel movie, and by cruel, I mean cruelly stupid. To truly understand what we're in for with this movie, we need to look no further than its director, Bruno Mattei. I'm assuming it's Mattei, I don't know. This guy is well renowned for making just some of the worst movies ever. Technically, his career started in editing, but in the early to mid-70s, he made the jump to directing, and by the 80s going into the 90s, he already had a most impressive output of such classic examples of Italian cinema as Strike Commando, Zombie 3, Hell of the Living Dead, Women's Prison Massacre. What? Do I know if any of those films are any good? No, I haven't watched any of them yet. But if this film serves as a solid indicator of the rest of his filmography, I never will. I know it's unfair to judge an entire career off of one bad movie, so let's forget about Bruno for just a second, and instead talk about the other things that gear you up for a steaming pile. First of all, despite posters and DVD covers using Jaws poster assets, and the movie even sometimes going under the title of Jaws 5 Cruel Jaws, this movie is not an official sequel to the Jaws films. Cruel Jaws is a straight-up knockoff of the Jaws series that uses familiar iconography associated with that franchise to try and fool people into thinking it's part of that franchise. And if your initial reaction to that is, wow, that sounds incredibly slimy and deceptive, welcome to Italian knockoff cinema. Learn to respect the hustle. I'm not entirely sure how many people were legitimately fooled into buying this because they thought it was a genuine sequel to Jaws, but maybe the intention was to fool people in a slightly different way than you might think. Maybe it's not so much they were trying to get people to say, oh, this must be one of those Jaws movies that my grandson watches. Oh, I'll get him this for Christmas and he'll love it. It's not like that. Maybe it's meant to be more like, dude, this Jaws ripoff looks like total ass. Let's spend our money and actively support the people who made it just so we can trash it for how bad it is. That'll show them. Well, joke's on you bitches, I didn't pay a cent for this movie, because someone was charitable enough to upload it to YouTube for all the world to see, so ha! Now there's two versions of this movie, apparently. Supposedly, the Japanese version is about 3 minutes longer than the American cut. I'm pretty sure the version I watched is the American version, since the runtime matches more closely with that version. I don't know what was cut out or added back in for the Japanese version, but I doubt 3 minutes of removed footage could possibly take away from this film's greatness as is, so let's stop beating around the ballsack and just jump in. The movie starts incredibly abruptly, with no real opening logos or anything like that. Just the second the movie starts, BAM! Boat. I can only assume no real company wanted their name at the front of this movie, so it just starts. This is a pair of scuba divers who explain to their boat driver that the wreck of a Navy ship is right below them, and that they're going to retrieve some top secret information from it to be rich. None of this really matters, it's just an excuse for them to get in the water so we can get our opening kills, but hey, this opening sequence does give us some legit production credits, like how this film was brought to us by the Europe Communications and Production Group. Production Group? Yes, Production Group. Almost as respected name in the film industry as Movie Studio. That's an odd way of spelling Bruno Mattei. They must have made a typo. Or this was just a way to convince the audience into thinking this film wasn't actually directed by a... but rather a... It isn't long before they get attacked by the shark, I think. The footage is so grainy and dark that I could barely tell what I'm looking at, but that looks like a shark's nose, so I guess that's what it is. Of course, the divers soon fulfill their red shirt destinies. Look, one was even wearing a red wetsuit, and are attacked and presumably devoured by the shark. I also guess the shark attacks the boat driver, but I say I guess because it looks like both of these opening attack scenes were edited with a boat propeller, so I can't be too sure. Cut to an RV driving down the highway, as we're introduced to two of our main-ish characters. Bill, who with his Harry Potter glasses and pedantic delivery is one of the biggest nerd stereotypes I've ever seen, not entirely played for laughs, and his girlfriend Vanessa. They're stopping by an aquarium owned by Hulk Hogan here, and even pay a visit to Hulk's disabled daughter playing with the dolphins. By the way, after the background music stops in this scene, we get audio of an audience applauding that seems like it was just haphazardly thrown in. It doesn't sound like it belongs in the scene or anything, just random applause. Check it out. Hulk Hogan is paid a visit by Police Chief Francis, who tells him that his aquarium is being shut down by some dickhead authority figure because Jaws had the mayor and we gotta do everything that movie did but worse. It's the only way. But to hell with all that, we've got a dead diver to discover. And get this, the working theory is that it was a boating accident, but Mr. Shark Scientist doesn't think so. Now where have I heard that before? By the way, I love how Bill just casually mentions that this guy might have been killed by a killer whale, even though the only human fatalities caused by killer whales have been in captivity, so I think he can forget about that fringe theory of yours. The pathologist they go to see concludes that it was indeed a shark attack, and oh great, more bad editing, as we immediately cut from the autopsy scene to this one where it looks like Francis and Bill are now in an entirely different conversation. No transition at all. Who is this guy? Why are they talking to him? We didn't even get to hear anything they said. You know, maybe that longer version adds back in more than I thought. Whatever, let's just move on to the next bootleg Jaws scene. This time it's where the figure of authority tells the police chief that they can't close the beaches and to just ignore the shark and it's fine. Except in this scene we do have two of these guys saying the same thing. Hey, double your pleasure, double your fun, right? Though I don't think Bill is taking the best approach here in trying to convince these two. Listen to this.
Why, hell, you know how many people drowned in accidents? Are you gonna blame them all on sharks, too? Yeah, maybe.
Okay, Bill, I don't really know if blaming all drowning deaths on shark attacks is the best way to go about this. You're trying not to look crazy, right? It's also in this scene that Bill identifies the shark as a tiger shark. Ooh, see? This is completely different from that other shark movie, since in that movie it was a great white. Yes! Score one for originality, baby! Well, I think we've had far too many plot-relevant scenes in these first 10 minutes, so let's get to two douchebags ogling women in their bikinis. They're soon joined by Vanessa and some of her gal pals, one of whom disembarks to see this Bob guy who we briefly met earlier along with Mr. Swimcap all the time. Apparently both of these two are supposed to be Hulk Hogan's sons, which I didn't realize the first time I watched this, so thanks Wikipedia. Speaking of unclear relations, this chick Gloria is apparently the daughter of the mayor analog, and is also the sister of He-Man Hair McFuckface over there. I didn't get any of that from watching this movie the first time around, so big double thanks to Wiki for that. Later that night, Lolf Dungren here and his girlfriend go out swimming in what is an obvious recreation of the scene from the original Jaws, except here, instead of happening at the very beginning, it happens 15 minutes in. But it's the same idea. It's so similar even that they actually resort to taking footage from the original scene it's obviously imitating. Would you believe this is one of the more subtle and less perplexing uses of stolen footage in this movie? Oh yes, we'll get to that. It's also in this scene that we get our first good look at the shark and, that's not a tiger shark. Man, what a worthwhile addition saying that the shark in this movie is a tiger shark and then never using footage of a tiger shark once in the entire movie. I guess tiger shark footage is just hard to come by. They are called the dumpsters of the sea after all. Maybe they just eat every camera that tries to film them.
Stop kidding around, Dan.
Wait, what did you just call him?
Dan?
Tien?
As a matter of fact, it isn't.
So finally the shark comes up and eats her. Naturally, the boyfriend is terrified. Meanwhile, as Gloria and Bob have a little heart-to-heart, they soon get accosted by the Dude Bro Squad, led by those two douchebags from earlier, who just beat the shit out of Bob in a scene that serves surprisingly little of a purpose in the movie other than showing us that these guys are even bigger jackasses than we thought. Then we get this completely random scene of them feeding poisoned fish to the dolphins at the aquarium because I guess they're just dicks? Alright, enough of these asshats. Is anything more interesting going on? Well, we got Sheriff Francis coming out of the police station to the most epic music ever to inform Bill of the most recent shark attack. allowing Bill to basically copy word for word Hooper's description of sharks from that other movie. But all that doesn't matter to Fuckface Sr., who tells Hulk Hogan all about how he's gonna close the aquarium because he's the bad guy, which prompts a sea lion to push him into the water. I think that deserves a wah-wah. Francis goes to see the mayor, along with Mr. Bad Guy, who eventually compromises and decides to put shark-proof nets around the bay so they can still hold their oh-so-important regatta, and the shark can't get through. Wait a minute, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, something that wasn't in Jaws for once, but was a plot point in The Last Shark, another Italian Jaws cash-in made about 10 years earlier. And that's not the only thing this movie owes to other non-Jaws shark movies, but again, we'll get to that. Later, Vanessa and Bill appear to be getting busy, while Vanessa
She's early.
practices her ventriloquist skills. Seriously, that's the best they did to match the lip movement. There were absolutely no fucks given with this movie. Well anyway, their sexy time is interrupted by Sheriff Cockblocker here, who informs Bill that they need him. What I mentioned about Vanessa's obvious ADR may have been out of necessity, by the way, since the sound mixing in the rest of this scene, and a lot of other scenes in this movie, but this one in particular is garbage. It's all tinny and echoey. I guess production couldn't afford a boom mic. Not like that's an important piece of film equipment that probably should have been one of the first things on your list or anything. And even though Bill is just doing what's asked of him and also, trying to save the community from a killer shark, Vanessa decides to be a little bitch about it and ditch him. Because, those fragile females, always looking out for themselves, never thinking about the bigger picture. Mamma mia!
Dad, why do sharks eat people?
Because they're hungry.
Neat. Now I know. Next we see Vanessa, accompanied by her friend Glenda, going out partying, and what do you know, it's with those two douchebags from earlier. Well, this is all very unimportant. The only good part is finding out Glenda can apparently telepathically hit people in the balls, cause her knee definitely didn't make contact with him.
As you can see, we've completely protected this area of the coastline with a special shark net that goes from here to here.
Ah, thanks for the specifications. I was worried that the nets would only extend from here to there, but in fact, I was mistaken. Now it seems the force is out in full force, searching for the shark. Well, the great white tiger shark may be nowhere to be found, but I do see a mako shark. While watching the water though, Sheriff Francis is approached by this random-ass tourist family who came all the way up here just because they heard about the killer shark. It's actually kind of funny. At least it's a funny idea. It might be one of the few instances of intended humor in this film that actually comes close to working, since, most of the other humor to be found in this film is not as intentional. It seems that while out patrolling the water, the Chopper Bros actually managed to kill a shark. An actual tiger shark even. But Bill isn't so convinced, because the bite radius, or jaw span, whatever he calls it in the scene, just doesn't convince. Now, where have I heard that before? It couldn't have possibly been in that other movie about a killer shark. No. It must be a crazy coincidence. Silly me, how could I ever think of such a thing? Something in this movie being the same as in that other one. How ludicrous.
You're talking nonsense, boy. You've been seeing too many movies.
Well, I can name at least one movie he's obviously quite familiar with. At last, it's time for the regatta. Time for summer fun. Time for lots of joy and happy shark-free times and what? Okay, I was gonna comment on how these stars and bars were weird and showed how the Italian filmmakers probably weren't very knowledgeable of US history and might have not even known what these flags represented, but according to IMDb, this film, while still Italian in origin, was filmed in Florida, so... Fucking Florida. Oh well, it is what it is. Now, off to the races. Yeah, look at them go. Watch them sail. See Bob and Fuckface continue their pointless rivalry as the shark tries desperately to get its way back into the movie. Oh, looks like it might have succeeded. Alright, Hulk, what do you see?
Oh my God!
Couldn't have said it any better myself. What else can you say in that situation but, oh my God! Yes, the shark is back, here to spoil everyone's summer fun. This is also the first scene where we get to see the shark pop his head out of the water, but I don't know. That doesn't look like footage from any Jaws movie, but it does look a bit too sophisticated for what this film has given us so far. Oh yeah, that's because the majority of this attack scene, and much of the rest of the movie, apart from stealing footage from Jaws, also took scenes from The Last Shark, that Jaws ripoff I mentioned a little bit ago. This is incredible. How few shits do you have to give to not only steal footage from the movie you're obviously plagiarizing, but go the extra mile and take footage from another movie that was doing the same thing? This adds a whole new layer to the "can I copy your homework" meme, because now it adds a third kid who says, "Can I just copy both of your guys' homework?" Wow, Cruel Jaws. Wow. So during the attack scene, Hulk Hogan's daughter gets knocked into the water, forcing Vanessa to dive into the water to try and save her. She does, but at the cost of her own life. One jarring cut to the hospital later, and we see that Bill is none too happy with his girlfriend dying, partially due to the inaction of douchey McDickhead. So it's time to give a lecture on sharks, complete with this cartoony drawing of one that looks really surprised. Like, "Oh no, I'm a drawing! Ah!" Oh, and just before you thought this movie couldn't ape anything else, we get a direct steal of a line from Jurassic Park, when Hulk describes how the shark can kill you. It's exactly like how Grant described what raptors did to you, like almost word for word. In slightly more original matters, Mr. Business is visited by a mob boss who scolds Money Man for what happened at the regatta. Hey, I said it was slightly more original, not interesting or relevant. But it matters to Fuckface, because after overhearing his dad's argument with the mob boss, he decides to make him proud and gathers up his buddies to go shark hunting. Oh, and just when you thought this movie couldn't get any more shameless, listen to this. You guys heard that, didn't you? That's clearly Star Wars. They just ripped the beginning of one of the most iconic themes in cinematic history and put it in their dumbass movie. The guys who made this must have a hard time walking, because I don't know how they managed to drag around those enormous balls. Hulk Hogan and company also go out looking for the shark, but it's the douche squad that sets out earlier, and they're the ones who find the shark first. Their airtight strategy of shooting at it with a shotgun at a distance where it probably won't be able to do much damage doesn't seem to be working, and the shark just swims under and doinks the bottom of the boat. The new strategy is to toss in the bait, again apparently, and for Glenda to scream like a banshee when it works as intended? Like, you put the bait in the water with the intention of attracting the shark to you. What are you so surprised about? The next 30 seconds or so is absolute chaos. Fuckface gets knocked into the water, they don't even try to help him back onto the boat, he gets killed, so in response, Glenda pours a bunch of gasoline onto the boat for some reason, so then Dude Bro number 2 fires a flare gun, it ignites the gas, and then the boat explodes and they all fucking die. Holy crap. That was the best scene in the entire movie. We might as well just stop right there. Nah, of course we'll keep going. The sheriff decides to take matters into his own hands and hunt down the shark in a helicopter. He spots the shark and, all of a sudden, he's in a dress shirt and tie instead of his usual cop uniform. I wonder if it's because this scene mostly uses stock footage from The Last Shark, which also involves a character going up in a helicopter to find the shark. Except in that movie, it was a politician, so the attire made sense. But here, it's obvious this was only done to make the new footage they shot line up with the stolen footage. I wonder if they did that. Well, the stolen footage shows this plan going unsuccessfully, so Francis decides to start shooting at it with his rubber toy gun. How the hell are you supposed to do that when he can't even look through the damn scope? Surprisingly, the toy gun doesn't work either. So the shark jumps out of the water, grabs a hold of the helicopter, and Francis falls in the water and dies. He is certainly no Chief Brody, that's for sure. Oh, back to this crap of the Mafia. The mob boss informs Moneybags that they're taking the operation into their own hands, and that he's brought in two of his finest thugs to deal with the shark, the Vestinator and Hawaiian Shirtman. They'll get the job done. Of course, we all know who the real best monster hunting duo is. I believe they go by Brookford and Corn's Monster Hunters. In other news, Bill informs Hulk and company about the Cleveland, the Navy ship that's been mentioned here and there throughout the movie, and in a slightly original twist, explains that the shark was actually a secret government project to create a death machine trained to attack the enemy. explaining its aggressive nature and voracious appetite. I have to admit, it is a little bit of a clever explanation that does help clear up some of the shark's uncharacteristic behavior, but it's also pretty absurd. What the hell kind of Navy experiment was this? Who thought it was a good idea? Of all the weapons to employ against the enemy, they really thought one souped-up great white, tiger shark was gonna do the trick? That'd be like the Air Force, as their next big project, deployed a genetically enhanced albatross. No one's gonna get past that.
Look, man, aren't they the ones who were supposed to be the boss to take care of?
Yeah, you know what? I think they are the ones the boss take care of.
That's them, all right. What do we do? We follow them.
Wow, I never thought about that. Next time I need to take care of someone, I'll remember that.
Shit, this is hot stuff.
Oh yeah, that's hot stuff. Oh, maps get me so horny. I love these guys. They're giving me so much to work with. After whatever the fuck those last 2 minutes were, the thugs set out to kill the shark. Well, I bet this will just go swimmingly. Oh, I was wrong, by the way. It actually goes horribly for them and they both die. So necessary. And what better way for these clowns to exit the movie than with a fucking fart sound? No, really. Listen to this. I'm not the only one that heard that, am I? Please, please tell me I'm not, and that I'm not just immature, and that they legitimately added what sounds like a fart noise to this scene. I mean, let's play it again. Classy. In far less interesting matters, Hulk and company have made it to the wreck of the Cleveland and dive in to blow the shark up. The dynamite planting seems to be going well until Sharky Boy shows up for one last battle. Bob and this other guy manage to get back to the boat, but Bill is still below with the shark, so it's up to Bob to dive back in to get him, without properly putting on his scuba gear. Cause that won't get cumbersome. You're only trying to save someone's life from a killer shark. Mobility's not gonna be an issue. Bill gets back to the ship, I guess, and you know, I feel like I'm not going into much detail with this climax, but that's just cause it's so boring. I mean, the whole rest of the movie's been bad, but this final showdown with the shark just feels so tepid. And it all just ends with Bob getting back to the boat again, some quick shots of the shark, and they blow it up. That sounds like it might be a little bit exciting to you. Well, guess what? It isn't. And from there, the film's pretty much over. We got some more aquarium footage, Fuckface Sr. gets knocked into the water again after trying to present Hulk Hogan with his award for killing the shark. Roll credits. Holy shit, we did it. Well, that sucked. I don't really know what I was expecting. Thankfully, it wasn't anything good, so at least I wasn't too disappointed. But surprise, surprise, a movie that's only outlet of success is aping another franchise's name and iconography isn't exactly a high-quality piece of entertainment. And, you know, really, let's talk about this. The poster art is one thing. Well, I mean, yeah, it is one thing. It's stealing, but okay. Knockoffs using official promotional assets to promote their stupid-ass movie, nothing new. But the fact that this movie goes the extra mile and actually takes footage from the thing it's knocking off is just amazing. Then, to go even further beyond, it goes that extra mile and takes footage from other knockoffs of the same franchise it's cashing in on. That is a whole new level of shamelessness, and clearly shows that not a single shit was given during this film's entire production. I mean, I can think of so many Hollywood films that have been knocked off in some way, and the thought of another ripoff coming along and stealing footage from any of those movies, it still just blows my mind on so many levels. And, you know, some of you might be thinking, wow, he's really harping on this one point. Well, make no mistake, the movie is still garbage without all the stolen footage. In fact, it'd be worse without the stolen footage, because then we wouldn't have any shark screen time, because all the shark footage is taken from other movies or stock footage of real sharks. Point is, stolen footage is far from the only thing this film has going against it. Everything from the bare bones, cut and paste story, to the ridiculously corny and over-the-top performances, to the bizarre music choices. Every aspect of this movie reeks of either incompetence or laziness. Or both. Mostly both. Quite frankly, I see it as something of an injustice that this movie doesn't come up more often in discussions of what the best worst movie is. Sure, I've been ripping it a new one this whole video, and rightfully so, it's a terrible movie, but to say I didn't at least have a little fun would be lying. I mean, when a movie has scenes like this in it, you know that at the very least you're keeping your audience engaged. And in a day and age where it seems everyone is on the lookout for the next so bad it's good movie, well, here's a perfectly goodly bad one right here. But to be clear, this movie is still horrible. I mean, horrible. It's absolutely terrible. Don't watch it. Sober. Now. Next time. Something completely different and unrelated. See ya.